All right, moving on, the ANC Treasurer Paul Mashatile has hinted at the possible privatization of Eskom. He was addressing the Cape Town Press Club. He says the power giant should be split into 3 categories to make it more effective. Mashatile says while they are not privatized at the moment, SOEs wouldn't mind strategic equity partners coming in to rescue the electricity giant. National Union of Mine Workers, Pakamila Shlubi, the spokesperson, joins us now for a chat. Pakamila, thank you for joining us. And first of all, I want to commend you on your passion. I've been following the work you do, and your passion is just incredible, and you're doing a great job.
Thank you very much, Richard. I appreciate it.
Not to mention, you nearly took my head off on public TV when I asked you a question that irritated you. Okay, so Eskom, the thought of dividing it into 3 entities for viability, what's your thought on that?
Well, first of all, let me just assist you. I know it's not you, but it's National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa.
Metal Workers, I beg your pardon.
Yes. So on the issue of Eskom, we've obviously become aware, we've heard the announcements around their financial performance. We've also heard, from the likes of Paul Mashatile with regards to recommendations which are that the SOE should be privatized. First of all, as Numsa, we want to make it very clear that we believe that government's agenda overall is to privatize state-owned entities, including Eskom. When you look at the way that Eskom has been run, and you look at where it is financially, this is an institution which has really been brought to the brink of collapse. And we believe that it has been deliberately engineered in that way.
Why? Deliberately
so that
engineered?
They can justify privatization. Ultimately, that is the goal of the ANC government.
That sounds like a conspiracy theory.
Oh, no, it is a fact. You've heard him. You were quoting Paul Mashatile just now when he was talking about breaking it up into compartments.
Right.
That's privatization by another form. And we reject it.
Such a long, drawn-out plan.
This is ultimately their plan. We say this because all unions, besides Numsa, NUM, and Solidarity, have identified 4 key areas which are cost drivers at Eskom, which we believe that the management team at Eskom, together with the board and the shareholder, which is government, need to decisively intervene on those areas. And if they intervene on those areas, not only will Eskom be sustainable in the long term, we will also be able to deal decisively with its financial crisis and at the same time resolve the demands of workers. We presented this proposal. This proposal speaks about 4 things. The first thing is that the IPP, Independent Power Producer Project, must be scrapped because it is wreaking havoc with Eskom's balance sheet. And this again was confirmed in the financial results announcement this week. Secondly, we've said that the structure of Eskom's executive team is bloated. You've got an executive team of more than 400 people, all of them earning an average of about R1 million per annum. That must be drastically reduced. Thirdly, we've said that Eskom's major cost driver is the cost of coal. When you analyze coal costs in Eskom for the last 10 years or so, they have increased by 17% year upon year, in spite of the fact that Eskom has actually been reducing the levels of coal that it's been using. Now, that speaks to corruption, quite frankly. Why are you spending more on coal when you're using less? How do they justify the exorbitant costs on coal? And fourthly, we spoke about the cost overruns at the Medupi and Kusile power stations, Eskom's built program. So those are the 4 areas that we've identified. From day one of wage talks, these were the issues that we said the state needed to intervene directly on. They have ignored us. And the only reason that they've ignored us is because they have decided to collapse Eskom so that they can privatize it.
I see. Oh, that's a huge and it's a very serious statement. All right, 10 CEOs in 10 years, high prices. Eskom is not looking good. What do you make of the $33 billion loan by the Chinese bank? Is that a positive or negative for Eskom?
Well,
and how does it affect you and your workers?
On the outset, it does look like a positive. It is a positive step because it means that it's going to secure stability in the short and medium term for the power utility. However, as Numsa, we can only fully endorse and support that loan if that investment translates into a situation where local companies are beneficiaries from this arrangement. Local companies and workers, South African workers, must benefit through jobs through this arrangement. We've seen in the past where the Chinese have gotten involved, where the beneficiaries are Chinese companies, where they import labor into South Africa. And we don't want that situation playing itself out as being part of the terms of this agreement. So if we would like this loan to be scrutinized, we would like to ensure that the way it's going to operate will ensure that local companies and local workers are beneficiaries of this deal.
All right, let's swing into the wage negotiation. How's that looking? I mean, when I first spoke to you, we talked about the fact that they were using intimidation tactics and the wage negotiations weren't really moving smoothly. How would you assess it at this point in time?
Well, at this point in time, we find ourselves in a very precarious situation. Eskom's announcement and decision not to pay out bonuses is one that creates a difficult situation for unions. We have made it clear that the bonus payout is non-negotiable, that it is a deal breaker. This was the mandate given to us by our members across all unions.
Why is it non-negotiable?
It is non-negotiable and a deal breaker because and this also became apparent when the results were released this week. Our members, in terms of Eskom's key performance indicators, they have met their targets. They put in extra effort from last year up until the close of the financial year this year to ensure that Eskom meets its key performance indicators. And when you analyze Eskom's performance overall, before you remove things like tax and you remove investments, they've actually improved in their productivity. It's clear in black and white that there's been a drastic improvement in productivity. And that is as a result of the contribution of workers. And Eskom acknowledges this. The decision to deny bonuses has to do with other issues that don't have anything to do with workers. It has to do with mismanagement. The 19.6 billion rand of irregular expenditure, for example, which was revealed. That is a failure of management. That is because of corruption and looting and poor controls within Eskom. And unfortunately, we all know who's to blame there. That's senior executive management. And because of their failures, now workers are being denied their bonus. And frankly, we just think that that is wrong and that is unfair. And we are calling on Eskom to review this decision because it's going to have a material impact on wage talks. We will give a full response to Eskom on what our members are saying on this issue when we meet with them tomorrow.
All right, is there any compromise in your negotiations, in your thinking when it comes to Numsa, when you look at the post office and how they wrapped up their wage negotiation within 2 weeks? Do you sometimes look at that and feel that perhaps you could compromise? You talked of bonuses being a deal breaker. Is there any way you could perhaps see yourselves giving Eskom some slack, knowing that they are in financial difficulty, they have mismanaged, but how do you correct that? The workers need to benefit at this point in time, but there is a problem. There's a stalemate.
Well, I think there's two things there. And as I said to you, Richard, it also requires a compromise on the side of the state, which is the shareholder. The state must recognize the cost drivers. In fact, the state does recognize the cost drivers that we've identified at Eskom. The state has made a decision to do nothing about those cost drivers. In other words, to deliberately deepen the crisis at Eskom. So where does that leave us as trade unions? Because we can only compromise so much. We are not the ones who are responsible and in charge and in control at Eskom. And secondly, I think as unions, we have drastically compromised. When we went into wage talks, the mandate from our members was a double-digit increase. They were very clear. They did not want to back down. We are now at a point where we can settle on 7%. But the only way we can settle on 7% in the current context, and a 3-year wage agreement, by the way. So we've actually also said to Eskom, we are willing to give you stability for 3 years, but you have to make it worth our while. And they can only make it worth our while through these bonuses. They are making our jobs very difficult. We operate on a mandate. Our members tell us what they want, and we execute. So we are in a position now where They're not giving us a lot to work with. They haven't sweetened the deal, so to speak, through the bonuses. We've compromised from a double digit to 7%. We've compromised on the demands on the housing allowance, and we've given a comprehensive turnaround strategy for the long-term sustainability of Eskom. But unfortunately, we can see that we are getting no cooperation from the state. We are getting no cooperation from Eskom management. So we will finalize and confirm in more detail tomorrow what the next course of action will be once we have had our engagements with Eskom.
All right, Phakamile, we are out of time, but I still got to pick your mind on the court case that we have today. There's a court case today on labor brokering brought by the unions to the Constitutional Court. Are you hopeful the court will rule in your favor? Talk to us about that very quickly.
Well, indeed, the Constitutional Court has to hand down judgment in a matter involving Numsa and a company called Assigned Services. At the heart of this issue is the interpretation on the labor law with regards to deeming or temporary employment services. So in other words, how long is a contract worker or a worker under labor brokers considered to be under the employ of the labor brokering service? It's about that interpretation. We believe as Numsa that the interpretation is that a worker who works for a labor brokering company should only work for them for 3 months. Thereafter, they are eligible to become permanent. That is what the labor law says. That has been confirmed at CCMA, confirmed at the Labor Court, and at the Labor Appeals Court. This company has taken us to the Constitutional Court because they're unhappy with those decisions. We hope that the Constitutional Court will uphold the decisions of the lower courts. If they do so, it effectively will confirm once and for all that all workers who work for labor brokers after 3 months are to be converted to permanent and then become permanent employees of the main employees. And it really would be a major success, particularly because this is an issue for workers. Labor brokers are an extremely oppressive regime. Workers who work for labor brokers often earn less money. They don't receive benefits. They are exploited in the worst way. And we believe that if the Constitutional Court was to side with us on this issue, this would go a long way towards equalizing the rights of workers in this space.